It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and also it's the 12th day in the month of November 2024. And it's time for us to, look at the burning issues that regards the state of the nation on Voice of the People Television, the morning show called VOP this morning. I am Fina Okechukwu, and on the radar this morning, we'll be looking at how Sokoto-based journalist reviews how headsmen invited new terrorist group, the Lukarawas, in Sokoto since 2018. As a security, spending soars, driving Nigeria's national debt to 134 trillion naira, with every Nigerian now owing 615,520 naira under the Tinubu-led administration. Before you ask me why am I talking about this debt, it's for you to understand also that every time there's a budget, Nigerian government pushing so much more in the security. Yes, buying weapons and ammunition to make sure we fight security and insecurity in this country. I'm not alone in the studio. I have Chukwuma Okoro and Moses Humphrey with me in the studio. Good morning, Chukwuma.
Good morning, Fina. All right. Good morning and thanks for joining us on VOP this morning. I am Chukwuma Okoro. DSS finally grants Nnamdi Kanu access to his legal team after 2 months of denial. Meanwhile, Sowore has revealed that there's a secret memo opposing the allocation of certain political positions and opportunities to the Igbos in Nigeria. Moses?
Oh, well, interesting conversation this morning, and we'd like for you to come along with us as we dive into these issues. Well, do well to subscribe to the YouTube page. It's Voice of the People TV on YouTube and on other platforms, social media platforms. Of course, we are at VOP TV Live. Now, well, before we get into the conversation, before we get into the papers, because right after now we'll be looking at what stories made it to the national dailies this morning. But before then, let's take a look at a few stories that trended yesterday. Of course, Nigeria's president, Nigerians have been reacting to the fact that the president is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he has called for an end to Israeli aggression in Gaza. Well, the president warned that empty condemnation are not enough to end the conflict in Palestine, which he said has persisted for far too long. Well, Tinubu made this argument at the extraordinary Arab-Islamic Summit convened to address the current situation in the Middle East. Oh, well, Nigerians, of course, have been reacting to that one. Fina did say something yesterday that how do you chase rats when your house is on fire? Well, Nigeria is on fire because it has become a hub for multiple militant groups. And Nigerians are having to suffer because a lot of them are being sacked from their homes, chased into IDP camps, and attacked in IDP camps, raped while in IDP camps. A lot of things. I mean, when flooding, when the natural disaster ravaged some parts of Nigeria, the president chose not to travel. Well, I don't know if that was the reason or if it was going for the UNGA, that was the reason, but he chose not to travel. But then when something that can be controlled, a natural disaster, I mean, man-made disaster, something that in fact, with the emergence of the Lakurawa, one would expect that the president will have addressed the nation at some point. Tell Nigerians that, look, we have heard that there is this group, and I have given, standing order that they be destroyed, they be wiped out. Those kind of words will give Nigerians confidence. I don't understand why in Nigeria, for the president to speak to Nigerians, it has to be on a special occasion or after Nigerians have gone out to strike. I mean, if it's not Independence Day, if it's not a handing over ceremony, if it's not because of a strike, the president would not speak to the people. How did we get here?
Well, Moses, we used to have a presidential briefing, under Obasanjo.
Yes,
we saw that. At a point, Muhammad Buhari was pressured, so to say. I don't know why you're giggling. Was pressured to do that.
Because he couldn't. I mean, Nigerians mocked, a lot of when he spoke about
exactly. But in this situation, we it's about 16, 17 months now, and the only occasion the president has addressed us, like he said, is on Independence Day and when Nigerians poured into the streets to strike. But the president's visit to Saudi Arabia, for whatever reason, I don't want to talk about it again because we have dwelt on that long ago. But there's something I want to read. It's an excerpt from the president's statement.
Okay.
You know, I think it will prompt some kind of soul searching by the president himself and his handlers. The president said, explaining Nigeria's principled and consistent stance on the two-state solution, President Tinubu noted that it stands as a beacon of hope, representing the rise of both Israelis and Palestinians to self-determination and peace. The operational word there is the right to self-determination. The president understands that. Nigerians, ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, do they have the right to self-determination? Is our unity still negotiable or not negotiable? We talk about non-negotiability of our unity, but we go elsewhere and ask people to negotiate their own unity. There's a lot of soul searching to be done.
You know, when you're talking about the president coming up to address Nigerians, the only thing I've been thinking about is what happens to be the outcome of those addresses? Is it, I assure you, I've heard you, calm down, I hear your cries, and there's a yacht that was purchased, and next to that thing, $150 million airplane. When Nigerians are grappling, they're talking about multidimensional poverty. For me, I don't really think I need president to come and address Nigerians. I need him to swiftly move into action to, you know, help to curb the issue of insecurity. Even when, you know, last week or thereabout, NSA, the boss came up to say, get me Taro Bello. Up until today, we've not heard anything about where Taro Bello is, but the government was swift enough to move into telling Nigerians that one of the men who are helping to fight insecurity in Nigeria, which a whole lot of people, even sheikhs in his own state, have pointed him to be part of the people sponsoring insecurity in Nigeria, just come up to refute it, saying that is going in the wrong direction. Matawale is not a financier of terrorism act in Nigeria, and one want to ask, how truthful is this present administration in fight against insecurity?
All right, questions on the minds of Nigerians. Big questions. Oh, well. Let's look at another trending issue now. Well, the Ipman, this is one issue I'm tired of talking about because the back and forth leaves one very confused. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Ipman, they have secured an agreement with Dangote Refinery to lift products directly. And initially, they were talking about imported. Initially, they said imported fuel was a lot more less expensive than Dangote Refinery. But now they're dropping that idea, and they're staying with Dangote Refinery. Well, Dangote, I think Dangote Refinery has told us how much it sells its PMS, 980, about 980 and 990, thereabouts, about that. And well, the back and forth. Today, we are lifting from Dangote. Tomorrow, we've not been able to lift. You know, it's been designed in such a way that it will leave the ordinary Nigerian in a state of I don't want to say stupor, but it just leaves us feeling, you know, uninformed. Like we're looking at the stories, we're looking at things happening, and we are. The more we look, the less we understand, the more confused we are. That's what's been playing out with the refinery and Ipman and NNPCL doing all they've been doing. It's really disheartening, to say the least.
Moses, I don't know you took it from my mouth, you know, the back and forth. And that, you know, it's like the more you look, the less you see, the less you even understand. And which agreement are we talking about now? Is it the most recent? Because we've had this kind of... We've had this... This is the third time we are having this agreement.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm at a loss as to which agreement are we talking about?
The most recent.
Is it that suddenly the Dangote's price now have reduced, that Ekman can be able to buy?
That it is no longer cheaper.
It hasn't reduced.
You know, it's no longer expensive.
Cheaper to import.
You know, that's what we need to...
You know, so it tells you...
And also, sorry to interrupt your train of thought. I saw a story yesterday that landing cost has dropped. Landing cost of PMS in Nigeria has dropped.
Okay,
so
the landing cost of imported PMS.
Imported
Yes,
PMS
okay, has
dropped. So how is Dangote now cheaper?
So it's about the whole politics, in the oil industry. They don't want Nigerians to understand what is going on. And I think both NNPCL, Ipman, Dangote, all of them are complicit. They know what they are doing. They are playing politics with the lives of Nigerians.
My challenge
with the oil industry.
Why are we having this solely on PMS? Why is it that no one talks about it when it gets to diesel, when it gets to Jet A1, when it gets to gas, and you know that thing? Why must it be PMS?
No, I think PMS is the one that is most used by.
Oh, that's where the profit is. And that's why we're having
because,
the peak setting.
yes, that's where the volume is. It's volume dependent, because it touches on almost everybody. If you don't buy fuel for your generator, you are going to jump into a bus, or you're going to buy it for your car, and all of that.
It hurts me that the president knows that PMS is what everyone in Nigeria is kind of connected to among all the products from, the oil and gas. But yet, he's yet to come up open to say, we're putting a stop to this. This is what we want us to do. This is just come up to tell us that I've deregulated that particular sector. And we still hear every day that NNPCL still holds a higher chunk of what happens in that sector.
Even fixing prices.
That is it. And one want to wonder how truthful or how, is this deregulation that the president is talking about? I wouldn't want to talk about the OVH. I wouldn't really want to talk about the retail arm of NNPCL that had already been sold to OVH and all that. But I just pray that the president looks inward into what Nigerians are talking about because it's really, really painful.
Prayer.
Yeah, I have to.
All right, away from that, patients and their families staged a protest at University College Hospital Ibadan, Oyo State on Monday, raising concerns over prolonged electricity and water shortages. The protest follows a 17-day power disconnection by the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company due to unpaid bills. Light was cut off from UCHI.
Man's
17
inhumanity
days.
to man.
Is that what it is?
It's man's inhumanity.
University College Hospital Ibadan used to be a beacon of, a pinnacle, of learning in medicine at the tertiary level. I recall when we were growing up, when I was in university, a lot of people, Africans, used to travel from far and wide to University College Hospital Ibadan. Yeah. If you had an ailment that had defied solutions from any part of Nigeria, the last port of call, the last point of referral was University College Hospital Ibadan.
UCH Ibadan.
Yes, automatically that glory is lost. I don't know if you watched the protest.
No, I didn't.
Okay, it's online. They were crying, help us, we are dying. People have to buy fuel for small generators. People have died because light was off during theater, during procedures. People have to buy their own specimen. People have to buy all sorts of medical equipment. And we have a University College Hospital under the Federal Ministry of Education. We have the tertiary education, the tertiary medical service under the Ministry of Health. And all of that have been destroyed in one fell swoop.
The thing is, I think it's, UCH is one that we're, shining our radar on this morning. But for medical facilities in general, I think the government should look at giving some sort of subsidy, some sort of waiver, especially when it comes to power, electricity, and equipment. That will go a long way in boosting these institutions. I understand the fact that they are owing, but there should, because you know that these institutions are established to save lives, there should be some, you should give them some leeway, all right? Give them some leeway, because you know that when you cut power, it will affect the lives of those that are undergoing treatment at these facilities. It will affect everything. It will affect specimen that have been kept. It will affect everything. So we should have sympathy for human life. And subsidy in the energy sector is, this is where it comes up again. For institutions like this, medical institutions, subsidy should be, given to them, as it will go a long way in saving lives.
You see, sorry, Fina, Moses, this thing, like you said now, it cuts across not just
Yes, it cuts across.
University College Hospital, you know, in almost all the teaching hospitals, you find this kind of problem. But something is striking. You recall that sometime in 2021 or 2022, the then Chief Medical Director, I think it's Boju, this guy that does this thing on October 1, Boju Oyemade.
Okay.
Boju Oyemade. The mother was the CMD then.
Okay, oh yes. Oh,
The
yes.
mother was the CMD. And the
Boju
woman,
Oyemade, the
yes,
pastor
and the woman organized some kind of reunion with alumni of that department, College of Medicine, you know, to raise donations, you know, to revamp the hospital, you know, that faculty. And it was a Zoom thing. People were, you know, calling in from all parts of the world, donating monies. I think they had a target, donating monies, 100,000, 200,000, you know, 1 million naira and all of that. It got to a point, one young man from Anambra State who finished from that college said, sorry, can I just say something? The guy donated $1 million. The Zoom meeting ended. Because with that $1 million,
It's covered everything.
the target was overshot. Now the question is, what happened to that money? As at that time, a dollar was about 300 or 400 and something naira. So we were talking about 340 million naira or thereabout as at that time. Yet, they cannot provide electricity for that school. What happened?
A whole lot of questions in the mind.
I think government. Sorry, I think government should encourage private individuals to provide power to institutions like this if it cannot subsidize. Let private individuals provide power, and you know the hospital will pay directly to them. I don't know. I'm just thinking of ways of solving
for us
this.
to be able to mitigate this.
Yes.
Because it's quite disheartening. But anyway, it's time for us to go look at the cover page of the National Dailies this morning. We have the Daily Independent. We have a whole lot. Even the Punch is also on our table. But that'll be after this quick break. Just stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It's still VOP this morning, and it's time for us to, touch the national dailies. Before me this morning is a Daily Independent newspaper, the Punch newspaper, the Daily Trust, the Guardian newspaper, the Nigerian Tribune, the Vanguard, and a whole lot more. And I would like to start off with the Daily Independent that has its banner headline to be 765 flights cancelled, 19,250 delayed in Nigeria in 6 months. Riders to that story. Delta Airlines tops flight delays among foreign carriers. Dana Airlines leads local operators with 69% delay. And the window headlines are Ipman, Dangote reach agreement on direct petrol supply. Focus on governance, stop assaulting opponents, Atiku tells Tinubu. Rider to that story says policies approach to governance killing Nigerians. And we have other headlines on the cover page of the Daily Independent newspaper to be a Do APC Transition Committee submits report, seeks probe of Obaseki. The story is on page 29 of the Daily Independent. Defunct Heritage Bank, NDIC, begins auction of landed properties and charters. Fuel price hike, flood to raise inflation to 33.4% in October. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Independent newspaper. Kyari outlines vision for Nigeria's energy future. I'll tell it again for clarity's sake. Kyari outlines vision for Nigeria's energy future. Says NNPC to unveil 12 CNG station soon. Insists KOI not sabotaging domestic refineries. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Independent newspaper. Israel-Palestine crisis inflicting immeasurable suffering. That is coming from the president himself, Tinubu. And then the writers to that story urges immediate ceasefire in Gaza. And another bold headline that made it to the cover page of the Daily Independent reads, varsity education at risk if proposed tax reforms are passed. ASU. Varsity education at risk if proposed tax reforms are passed. Right after that, education tax remittance to TET fund in 2024 hits 1.5 trillion naira. And the last but not the least of the headlines that made it to cover page of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning is don't be deterred by challenges, be upright, CJN urges judges. And that story is on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper.
All right, let's go to the Guardian newspaper now. The banner headline here speaks to the health sector. It says healthcare on life support as hospitals buckle under crisis. And then the riders to that story. Up to 20% fee increase as energy costs strain budgets. Staff resort to phone flashlights amid surgery delays. Disrupted clinic schedules. Hospitals seek prioritization by electricity distributors due to life-saving services. All right. And then we have hospitals spend over 60 million naira monthly on diesel transfer costs to patients, unfortunately. Coalition decries new terror group. Chakarao flays in intelligence failure. TET fund cuts raise fears of tuition hikes despite student loan relief. Unsold goods hit 1.24 trillion naira, up by over 350% in 6 months. Marketers, Dangote settle rift on fuel lifting as NNPCL claims non-indebtedness. Tinubu seeks end to Gaza war, supports two-state solution. ICPC advocates asset tracking to combat illicit financial flow. NDIC begins liquidation of defunct Heritage Bank assets. Democrats, Aregbesola differ on return to parliamentary system. Well, these are the headlines from the Guardian newspaper.
And up next is the Daily Trust with the banner headline. Saudi Summit, Tinubu, Prince Salman, others demand end to Israel's aggression in Gaza. With the riders, call for two-state solution. Death toll in Palestine surpasses 43,000. 16,765 children among victims, over 100,000 wounded. And we don't let headlines are, under governorship, politicians woo voters with cash, food. Manufacturers spend 238.3 billion naira on alternative energy. Boko Haram kills 3, kidnaps many fishermen in Borno. Now there's a picture there of world leaders who assembled at Riyadh for the Arab Islamic Summit. And there's another headline there. Dangote, Ipman agree on direct fuel supply. I'll take that again for emphasis. Dangote, Ipman agree on direct fuel supply. And we also have Lassa fever kills 11 persons in Benue. Police officers protecting foreign cyber criminals on illegal duty, according to the IGP. And finally, EFCC to monitor funds disbursement to IPPIS orders. And that's all from the Daily Trust newspaper.
EFCC to monitor.
And the cover page of the cover page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, the stories that made it to that page. Ipman, Dangote reach agreement on direct lifting of petrol, diesel, orders. And the window headlines are outage, UCH needs urgent help. Johesu chairman tells FG. Right after that, protest rocks hospital over persistent power failure. I am not jealous of Tinubu inflicting pains on Nigerians, Atiku replies presidency. The story is on page 16 of the Nigerian Tribune. Tax reform bills divide northern lawmakers. It will impoverish the people. And Dume, you have not read it, Sani. The story is on page 21 of the Nigerian Tribune. 3 killed, many injured as truck plows into a market. Gunmen killed 2 in Ogun. Suspected cultist murdered groom to be in Edo. I'll tell it again for clarity's sake. Gunmen killed 2 in Ogun. Suspected cultist murdered groom to be in Edo. On Doguba, last-minute preparation peak as APC PDP INEC set for Saturday poll. Sensitive materials arrives Akure Obebolo to be sworn in today in Edo. The story proper is on page 15 of the Nigerian Tribune. Electricity consumers kick as discourse increase price of prepaid meters. Remember that price now is at 28.3% increase. Tinubu talks Israel to end Gaza aggression, seeks two-state solution to conflict. ASU raises alarm over tax reforms bill targeted at abolishing TET fund. And those are the stories you'll find in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning.
All right, then. So I think we'll go to the Punch newspaper now. From the Punch newspaper, the banner headline here reads, Petrol pump price may drop as Dangote marketers sign deal. Subriders, marketers to begin loading at refinery. NNPCL ends 24 trillion naira annual fuel import. Patronizes Dangote. The key word here is may. All right. Right beside the nameplate, minimum wage. Minimum wage earners exempt from payee, that's pay as you earn. This is according to tax panel. And then on top of the nameplate, we have Ondo governorship poll. Parties perfect vote buying plans. Candidates may step down. Ondo governorship poll. Parties perfect vote buying plans. Candidates may step down. FG spent 19 billion naira on presidential planes in 15 months. That's according to a report. And then you go further down. Tinubu, Sowore, Abiodun, former governors, Lord Bakari at 70. That's Pastor Tunde Bakari. It was his 70th birthday. U.S. places $25,000 bounty on fleeing Nigerian on murder trial. And then Obaseki hands over to Okwewolo today. Pardons 10 inmates. These are the headlines from the Punch newspaper.
And that's how far we can go. So looking at the cover pages of the National Dailies this morning. We'll go on a quick break and we'll come back. We'll be looking at how Sokoto-based journalist reviews how headsmen invited new terrorist group, the Lukarawas, to Sokoto. And this is as the security spending soar, driving Nigeria's national debt to 134 trillion naira. With every Nigerian now owing 615,520 naira under Tinubu's administration. And remember, it's just like 17 months he has been in office. Details after this quick break. Stay with us.
From the views on the streets,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's law.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People, 90.3 FM, became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Welcome back. It's VOP this morning. The newly active terror group, the Lukarawas, reportedly began operation in Sokoto's Gongono forest as far back as 2018. And this is according to a journalist whose name is Musa Obandawaki, initially brought in by nomadic herdsmen to protect against bandits, those who are causing them the castle rustling. But the group soon imposed strict Islamic rules, banning smoking, alcohol, and other activities, enforcing hijabs for women, and collecting zakat on Fulani livestock. The group's emergence has reportedly established a colony-like presence supported by fighters from Mali and Algeria. The secluded forest location, positioned between Nigeria and Niger, has served as a strategic base for Lukarawa's activities, allowing them to evade initial detection. Their attempt to set up a training ground for hardline Islamic extremism has led to multiple clashes with security forces. But during one encounter, authorities seized a jihadist flag resembling that of Al-Shabaab, further indicating the group's alignment with extremist ideology. The Nigerian military raised the alarm last week as the terror group, the Lukarawas, they escalated its attacks across Sokoto and Kebbi State, including a deadly assault on Mera Town in Kebbi, Angoi's local government area, which claimed 15 lives. With the nation's debt now at 134.297 trillion and an average debt burden of 619,501 per citizen. I'll take that again for you to understand. Nigeria's debt now is at 134.297 trillion naira, which made it this way, according to the census, that each Nigerian now is owing 619,501, based on a population that happens to be at 616.7 million by the National Bureau of Statistics. Nigerians have raised concerns over the effectiveness of years of substantial security funding, and many questions why this investment has yet to effectively counter threat, and also pose maybe a terrorist group over the years of the activities in Nigeria. And we have with us in the studio this morning to help make sense of today's topic. We have Dr. Deji Omoshola, who is a doctor of political science, and beside him is Prince Francis Chilakai, political analyst. And joining us virtually is Mr. Alex Okonkwo, who is a security expert. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in today's show.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Alex Okonkwo.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday to everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for being part of today's show. As a security expert, I would like to start off with you. The emergence of Lukarawa and their activities in Nigeria, and how much Nigerian government have also invested in fight against terrorism and insecurity in Nigeria. Can you help us, make sense of this? How come since 2018, a new bandit sector being operated in Nigeria, and yet we're just hearing of it just last week?
Okay, yes, thank you so much. And it's nice to see that panel. That's a very rich panel. I know some of them. It's not a new terrorist group, and you're very correct. It's not new. It's probably new to most Nigerians, but everybody involved in security has heard of Lakaruwa for a while. It is Lakurawa actually means recruits. What that gives anybody who's thinking about it clearly is that they emanate from other groups. So it's a splinter cell, a combination of different kinds of groups. They have a little bit of IS Sahel, they have a little bit of Boko Haram, and there's also typical banditry. What is going on here is simple. There's an effect of what's going on in other countries that have now military rule. So Niger, Mali particularly, and they've been driving these people southwards. Southwards for them is Nigeria. And we unfortunately inherit and contain and still maintain a very porous border all along that side, all along what is Niger Republic for us, and even a bit of Chad. Over 1,600 kilometers. You need to understand, we're talking of 1,600 kilometers. That is more than this distance from Sokoto to Lagos State. That's our border with Niger Republic. It's very porous. You can go through, I'm talking of the illegal borders now, I'm not talking of the legal ones. So you can cross from any point you want. So what's happening is that every time they have a major attack, and I'm talking of this particular group, they move southwards. And unfortunately, in recent history, we actually invited them. When I say we, I mean the people, residents of Sokoto State invited them. And they're enjoying their stay in Sokoto State, so to say. So why would they not stay? It just makes simple sense. These are very young people. They have one or two experienced leaders, but they're mostly between the ages of 19 and 26. We have some information actually from the French intelligence and UK intelligence, who are very present in that area. So the question you should be asking, and we should be asking ourselves, is what do we do now that it has blown up in public? Something that everybody, I'm sure everybody on your panel right there knew about them. And then the whole idea is, what do we do now to actually contain this kind of group?
But Mr. Okonkwo, we have a joint task force team manning the border. But just last month or so, we heard that the Boko Haram people that have been terrorizing, that region were being sent back into Nigeria over the fact that Nigerian government or Nigerian security or military personnel are not really living up to what they should do. I'm talking about the joint task force that we have between Mali and Niger Republic and Nigeria.
Yes.
So is it a people's problem that we have, this joint task force, and yet they are not being able to make sure they cover the borders of Nigerians?
No, I'm not going to give excuses for them here because, of course, the military and other security apparatus have to do their job. But don't forget, up till just a few months ago, we've had problems with these particular countries you're talking about. I'm talking of diplomatic problems. So it's not as if we've been cooperating very well with them. I'm talking of recently. Things were not as bad as they used to be. Once this government came in, the first thing we did was to quarrel with them. I'm not saying we don't all accept democracy, but you are the only one that knows where the shoe is pinching you. So if the people in Niger and Burkina Faso and so on and Mali feel that the military is the solution for them at this moment, they've had serious banditry problems. You must recollect, and they are the first that have suffered the effect of Libya busting into different provinces. So what we're just doing now, and it's started in the last 6 months, is that the military, our side of the military, have been discussing with them how to start again the cooperation we've had for a while. Don't forget, the French army has been driven away from there. So many things have changed in the last 2 years in that zone. You have to understand. So no matter what kind of forces we have here, collaboration has not been competent. That's what I would say. That's the first thing that has been wrong. Surveillance information has not been going fluently as it used to be going because the French have left, the Wagner group have come in, and they are using local bandits to fight. I said they are using, sorry, you see, even I made a lapsus. They are using local mercenaries kind of to fight bandits as well. So a lot of things have changed in the landscape.
All right, thanks, Mr. Alex Okonkwo. I would like to stay with you. You raised the question, and I would like to throw back the question at you. You are a security expert. You said, at this point, what do we do? And I want to ask you, as a security expert, what do you think that we should do to route this new group? So that it doesn't, it's already an open source thing. You see, like you said, it's a splinter. And we understand that there might be some kind of affiliation with ISWAP. And they are flying the flag that resembles that of Al-Shabaab. Mr. Okonkwo, what do we do to ensure that this thing doesn't expand and add to our problems?
Okay, first thing first, let's get back our cooperation with the countries. We keep mentioning borders here, and we're mentioning it all throughout the program. What that means is that we share that with other countries. So this is not something we can handle alone. If we chase them from here, they will go back to Niger. And if Niger Army and the Wagner Group chase them from there, they will come back here. So that's the very first thing to do, clear the situation over there. Then we have to ask ourselves the right questions, because a lot of these people resemble people that are our nationalities. Resemble Nigerians. I'm talking of culturally. When you see the Okada man in the street of Lagos, I tell you, if you see him 3 times, you will not recognize him. He looks like the same person. And that's the problem. So we have to go back to proper identity. If we don't know who we are chasing, we don't know what we are chasing them for.
But we know they move into the country in droves.
Yes, we have that surveillance. I'm telling you, it's not, when I say we have it, I don't mean just Nigeria. The Americans are present with satellite. The French are present. The US MICs, they are very present. The point is, what do? You have to have people on ground, and you have to know exactly who you're chasing and where you're chasing them to. There is no need we passing them around like a table tennis ball. We have to decide, cooperating with the countries around us, to eliminate that particular group and then start the social work for other groups not to emanate. Right. This is also part of the fallout of the bombardment that has been incessant from the Nigerian army side. We've been doing well in terms of bombardment. But what do? you still have to send soldiers on ground. You still have to send forces like the civil defense on ground to go out and fish out the people. You can see what the Israeli army is doing. After all the bombardments, soldiers still have to go on ground. We cannot avoid doing that. So we've been trying to not to get people on ground like that, but we have to actually get on ground and do the real fishing out. Otherwise, terrorist groups will always split up every year. There are new groups everywhere.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Okonkwo. But let me bring it to the studio now. Let me come to Dr. Deji Omoshola, who is a doctor of political science. Now, let's look at what Nigeria. Let's look at the political part of these things. We've been budgeting monies for insecurity. Now, permit me to bore you a little bit with the numbers. 2018, when this group came in, the budget for defense was put at 1.3 trillion naira. And then 2019, it went up a little bit. 1.65 trillion naira was budgeted. In fact, no, it rose to about $4.6 billion, all right? Approximately 1.65 trillion naira. And then 2020, similar allocations, $4.6 billion, if you put it in dollar terms. And then let's bring it down to 2024 now. 2024, Nigeria's defense allocation, budget allocation, increased to 3.25 trillion naira with a focus on defense and internal security measures. That's the focus. Somewhere in Abuja, we hear that altogether, total figure from 2018 to now is about 12 trillion naira. About 12 trillion naira. And in Abuja, we had somebody talking about putting CCTVs around. When you visit other climes, when you travel, there are CCTV cameras, even in places that are largely uninhabited. They find a way to install cameras that one can access from a central body, or when you go closer, you can access. What have we done with our budgets? And don't tell me that it's been embezzled, all right? Don't tell me that. What have we done with our budgets? What can we do differently? How can we manage the issue of ungoverned spaces?
Okay, first, while the lady was reading the intro, something struck me, which is that every Nigerian is owing.
No, we'll come back to that one. I mean,
We'll get to it.
So that means you are owing 690.
We'll look at that.
I'm not owing, but we'll come back to it.
Because I've never benefited anything from Nigeria. So if you say I'm owing 690, and one day I've never benefited 5K. So you are saying I'm owing. But that's the other side. You see, this Lukarawa group again reinforces.
Okay. What's the name actually? I think.
Lakaru.
Is it Lakuruwa?
Lakuruwa.
Lukarawa, I think.
It's Lakuruwa.
Mr. Okonkwo,
It's Lakurawa.
what's the actual pronunciation?
It's called Lakurawa. It means recruits. It means recruits in Hausa.
Lakurawa, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
This Lakurawa group again reinforces the failure of Nigeria as a country. And the problem with that is we seem to play politics all year round. There's no political season, so to say. There's usually one permutation, there's pre-election, election, post-election, the court, and, back and forth, and so many things. But the budget that you reeled out, you see, it's not really about budget. Then you can't isolate the military leadership from the general inefficiency or whatever you have in the country. It's not possible. For instance, if you enter a country and you are seeking to know about a particular sector, but you don't know much about it, it is asserted that you don't really need to look at that sector. You can look at other associated sectors. For instance, if you want to know how good Nigerian educational system is, when you get into Nigeria, look at the roads, go to the hospitals, visit the police station. If there's no efficiency in all these indices, you cannot expect that the educational sector will not be an isolation. What am I trying to say? The general corruption that we have in the country, in every sector, including allegedly the judiciary, you cannot isolate the military from it. That is one thing. Another thing is that if you look at the kind of personnel that we have and the orientation of government, you see, the orientation of Nigerian government has been largely to protect the regime. And for instance, if you look at the DSS is always active, super active. If you say, oh, they want to remove the president, somebody is protesting against the president, somebody abused the president, you see that the DSS is super active. They will deliver. But if you tell them that, oh, there's one Nakurawa or something, to deliver will now become a problem. The reason is because when they were established to protect the regime. During Babangida's time, they were established to protect the regime. And their operation have not changed. Why has it not changed? Because the direction of the government itself is yet to change. The direction of the government is largely about regime protection. That's why you see that, like the security expert said, there is no troops on ground to do the man marking on ground, but politicians are going all about the place with, siren and, numbers of policemen. So you can see that the orientation of the government is a problem. Then the military leadership itself, you see, the military is doing a very difficult job because the military is not trained to curb internal insurrection. The military is to naturally face external aggression. But what we have is that the military is now curbing internal insurrection, which means that the military is not doing police work. So, and the military naturally, by their training, they are trained to shoot to kill. That's how they are trained. And that's why if a military man wants to aim you, the way he is trained to aim you is close to the heart. That's his normal training. It is police that will shoot maybe in the leg, or police shoot to tame, but military shoot to kill. So if you are not fighting in an environment whereby it is within the territory of your country, not an external aggression, and you know that there are local people that are also Nigerians within that territory, it becomes very, very difficult. And for the military to now change their orientation into fighting local wars is very, very difficult. And that needs to happen. The reason why I say so is that if you look at the history of Nigeria, Nigeria doesn't have enemy. Nigeria, they maintain in champion. Tell me one enemy of Nigeria that Nigeria has fought war with. When the issue of Niger was becoming too troublesome, Nigeria just backed out. Nigeria know they get it. In fact, if you look at the international scene, most times, if, for instance, they want to vote between to support either Russia or Ukraine, Nigeria would rather abstain, so that it won't be an enemy of Ukraine and the Western allies or an enemy of Russia. So this Lakurawa something is something that it again speaks to the failure of the Nigerian state.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Deji. Prince Chilaka, let's bring you in here. Dr. Deji said something about the military being trained for external aggression. I don't know if you share that idea with him. Because, so what do we make of this particular problem now? It's more like it's no longer internal. We have infiltration from Chad, from Niger. We are talking about ISWAP, which is an international organization that has affiliates with Boko Haram and all of that. This thing has not become an international war against Nigeria by non-state actors. So do we still make excuses with the military, for the military by saying that they were not trained, to combat internal insurrection? This is more like a war against Nigeria.
When you say a war against Nigeria, who are the perpetrators of this war? Who are those that have started this war against this country? We're all just more like we're attacking the wound and leaving the real sore. You have a country where people don't get punished. I keep saying it. You have a country with a flawed constitution. You have a country with high level of incompetence. those who run government affairs are completely incompetent. And it filters down. In 2013, 2014, we saw what played out. You and I are witnesses to when some people came on air and said they invited certain people into the country. Everybody has kept quiet. Nobody has seen the need to punish anybody. In 2018, when Tambuwal was governor of Sokoto State, that was when this group emerged. It is on record that the governor tried to provide funds to security personnel to curb this menace when it started. Going also with that, we hear that they were invited by the community headsmen. It is also in this same country that the leader of the Cattle Realize Association told you that they were going to set up branches or units across the entire country to protect their cows. You're living in a country where cow has more value than human life. So we need to find where this problem is starting from. Everybody is hiding under the talk of religion to perpetuate evil. Because if you discuss about religion, especially Islam, with enlightened Muslims, they will tell you that it is a religion of peace. But then what is going on? How is it that that peace they all talk about has become evil? And nobody's saying anything. Now everybody say, oh, the military has so amount of money. The military is about... No. The northern leaders, maybe everybody is shy about it. The northern leaders have failed the north. They have failed the north completely.
Okay. Are you
because of the fact that a lot of them want to hold their people down in poverty. They're not doing the right thing they should do. The same thing you have playing out in the north is what is playing out in the southeast. The leaders are complicit. The leaders have failed the people. And we must hold them accountable.
Okay. All right.
If this government can arrest minors and charge them for treason, why are they not going after those who have engineered
Prince Chilaka,
these people
are you saying that the people of Sokoto or the leaders of Sokoto should also provide security for themselves, given the fact that that is one of the things that the government owes every citizen that they are leading or ruling? Remember that the indigenes of Gongono said that they call on these people to help them protect their cattle against cattle rustlers. We have Nigerian police. And I'm happy we make mention of...
Please.
Doctor say something about how... No. Why I'm asking is this, Prince Chilaka. Doctor said that it is the military that will take, that can handle this, and that the military cannot handle it. It's just the police. But we know
the only job the Nigerian police is good at doing is mounting checkpoints.
What happened to the 969.8 billion that's been allocated to them during this budget for 2024? The budget
what happened to the money allocated to INEC to oversee a proper electoral process?
Are we going to be pointing fingers?
No, we need to. This thing is a circle, it's a vicious circle of corruption. You cannot excuse any arm of government from the executive down. You cannot excuse anyone.
Okay.
The other day, somebody was talking about Singapore. Somebody did a video and was saying that Nigerians should be patient. That Singapore, China, they went through all of that. And I asked a question. The leaders, as at that time in Singapore and China, what did they do? They were the ones in the forefront. They were the ones championing it. They made more sacrifices than the people. But in Nigeria, no. The Nigerian people have been reduced to nothing. So they are the ones making the sacrifice, while those who are leading are living in affluence. And you think things will change? It will not change.
All right, then. Well, let me bring it back to you now, Alex. Yes, Prince Francis mentioned Miyetti Allah. I was going to go there. Miyetti Allah. Remember when these? Well, from what we gathered, when these group came into Nigeria in 2018, there was an onslaught, a military onslaught, that depleted their numbers. But then, right after that, they were convinced to move out. But then Miyetti Allah came out to say, look, stop the attack on them. These are headers. Stop the attack on them. Why is it that all through these insecurity, Miyetti Allah, cattle rearers, cattle headers, I beg your pardon, have been in the eye of it all, and we haven't seen the arrest of the leaders of Miyetti Allah. We haven't heard that they are being called to question. Why?
Okay, but the prince was alluding to a vicious cycle. Have you ever tried to arrest anybody at the National Union of Road Transport Workers in Lagos? Despite all the mayhem you and I know in Lagos, it's literally the same thing. Lagos would be blocked for the whole week and the whole month. That's exactly what's going on. Everybody's protecting their interests. Look, it is the story of people around the country pulling the blanket. You're in a couple and you're pulling the blanket to yourself. Of course, your spouse is not going to be well covered at night. That's what's going on in Nigeria. That's why we're not moving forward. Everybody in different departments, in different parts of the country, are pulling things to themselves instead of taking national interest first. So yes, you are correct. Everybody's wondering why Miyetti Allah has not had more problems that they've had. The reality is this. There are empty spaces in Nigeria, huge spaces in Nigeria. Do you know what's going on in Borno State now? Terrorism has come back. The army was present for over 6 years, and gradually they are moving out of there to go to other places. What's happening? Well, the Boko Haram people and ISWAP are seeing that there's some space again in the forest, so they are coming back. It's as simple as that. You cannot be everywhere with the military. So it's literally impossible. We just have about literally 200,000 active soldiers. I'm talking of both the Navy and the Air Force, of course. 200,000 active. That's people that can fight right now. Okay? That's well underserved to serve the country. That's the first thing. Second thing is they cannot do anything internally. Most of what they should be external. We're overstretching them for that. Second thing. Third thing is once they have done their operation, which Prince alluded to, which is killing and attacking and then doing that, they have to retreat back to their barracks. You cannot have upfront stations everywhere. Imagine if you have the military everywhere. Life becomes unviewable for most of us.
But we have high number of the military in the southeastern and south part of the country.
Yes.
So many checkpoints where there's not much security like what is happening in the northwest.
No. We have OPMESA missions and joint task forces everywhere. But it is still not presence. That's what I meant, presence. You need more of the police. You need more of civil defense and so on and so forth. You need those people on ground. Then you need more of local presence as well. Anywhere the farmers have run away from, the places are occupied by terrorists. The Sauna forest in Sokoto, which is huge, is being occupied by this group now. But they've chased everybody out. In fact, they've chased those that called them to protect them. The headers that called them have been chased out over the years.
You made mention of them chasing people out now, Mr. Alex Okonkwo.
Yes.
Just yesterday, the defense headquarters came up to tell Nigerians that there's an online recruitment platform made available by terrorist group in Nigeria. And then just like Moses Wallace said, this year, Nigerians' budget for defense stood at 3.85 trillion naira, which is 5.7% of the general budget, 37.99% increase from that of 2023. And with all this money that is being pushed into security, yet we haven't heard anything about cramping down that particular platform that's being generated or being opened by this terrorist group, even when Nigerians are being mandated to link all their lines with their NIN, BVN, and all that. What is really happening, Mr. Alex?
Okay, there are lots of faults going on. Okay, first thing first, let me clear one thing, because I know you've come back to budget often. You and I know that 1 million naira today is worth 300,000 4 years ago. So that's the first thing. We have to clear that out. So it seems as if we have a bigger budget now, but in reality, because we buy all our arms from abroad and it's in dollars, you know what the dollar is talking about today, we actually don't have a big budget for a country of 200 million people in terms of security. That's the first thing we have to clarify. It's not because you have more naira that you actually have more dollars. It's false. Just like the minimum wage, it is scandalous to think that people can live with 70,000 naira. It is less than the value of 20,000 naira 5 years ago.
Who are we blaming for the devaluation?
No, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Who are we going to blame for the devaluation of the naira?
Oh, of course, the executive took the decision on behalf of Nigerians. It's as simple as that. But they are Nigerians ruling Nigerians. We can't go and blame Japanese people. Nigerians are ruling Nigerians, so we're all involved. After all, I mean, the people there were elected or whatever, but I mean, they got there. They didn't use guns to come and harass us to get in there. That's by the way. Okay. We'll come back to that. But to answer your question directly, some of the things that have to be done now will probably have effect later. We have been incompetent over a period in terms of security. And Prince was very correct. There is also a bit of corruption involved. War, just like terrorism, is a big business. So don't rule that out completely.
Mr. Alex, let me stay with you. You said something which, in fact, Prince Chilaka said something which you have corroborated. I must say, I don't understand it when people talk about the military not having the ability to engage in internal operations, that they only operate externally. I don't understand that. What is external or internal operations? Is it that they operate at the borders or that they are trained to fight wars only? I ask the question in the light of the fact that, look, if Nigerian soldiers have gone on peacemaking operations, which are during internal problems in particular nations, in Congo, it was an internal problem. And they did very well. When they went to Epka'S, it was an internal problem of Epka'S. I mean, it wasn't a border war between Liberia and Sierra Leone or what. It was the internal problem of Liberia. And they did very well. Under ECOMOG, Nigeria led the ECOMOG troop. So why it's difficult for me to understand why they cannot function internally here and take out, you know, the terrorists based on their professional training. Okay. Please, can you let us understand that?
May I shed some light before Prince will intervene? I know he has something to say about that as well. Okay. What we are talking about here is symmetric and asymmetric warfare. The army is used to symmetric, where there's an enemy, defined enemy. It's either a country or it's either another organization, and they're very clear. And then you can attack them, and then you know where you're doing, what you're doing, and all that. This is asymmetric, what this means is that these are splinter groups. Everybody is potentially a bandit, if that's what you want to hear. You don't know who is going to rustle cattle tomorrow morning. There can be 20 young guys who were drinking just the night before. So that is a police work. The military, they are not trained for that. It doesn't mean they cannot shoot those people when they finally get to confront them. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that they are not even trained for that kind of surveillance. So they don't have that kind of information. They know that there are foreign troops here and they confront the foreign troops very well. There is a flag, there is a uniform, there are conventional arms going on. These are, some of them are IDPs. They come, they explode. Once you're about to arrest them, they explode their bomb and they explode. And what do you now do? So we are not saying that the army cannot do that job. The second thing you have to realize that the army cannot stay. So even when they attack and defeat these insurgents, they have to go back to their barracks. What happens the next day? The village is massacred because there's a revenge. That's what we're saying. So this cat and mouse kind of warfare, the army is not used to it. The police is more adapted, actually, except that they are underfurnished, undertrained, and under-equipped. You see what I'm saying?
Do you think that the Nigerian police can do a better job than the military?
Yes,
because of their failure. It's because they failed. That was why the military was called in the first place.
No. Historically, they have. The point is that everybody is overstretched. Look, we don't have forces in this country. We have literally about 500,000 policemen. And Prince said it, most of them are at checkpoints because of the way they were conceived initially. I think, or rather, it was the other guest that said it, the way they were conceived. But if you look at the history of Nigeria, even when the army operates, they operate with the DSS. What is the DSS? DSS is actually an arm of the police. They have trained more militarized police, I would call them, investigative and militarized police. But they're not soldiers. So what we're talking about here is that we must have that cooperation. But the police has to take the chunk of the job.
Is it that the leadership, that the presidency does not understand this thing when at intervals they order the chief of army staff, the chief of defense staff, the minister of defense, or move to Sokoto, move to Zamfara? Is it that they don't understand this thing?
No, they do. They are doing that for us. Those are lip service. You remember when General Buratai came in as well? He went to do frog jump or something in Bonu, And then he realized he couldn't stay there. He had to go to Abuja. Chief of Army Staff cannot die in combat. It doesn't work like that. These are things they do for the public to make us happy. But we others that work closely with these people know that this is a waste of time. Why will you send your general? Why will you send your major general? The chief of the army staff to Sokoto to go and base there? No, it makes no sense. What's going to happen in Port Harcourt where there are other problems as well? So what I'm saying is this. These are lip service of politicians. And that is why countries like Niger and Burkina Faso changed their regime. They got fed up as well. They have serious banditry problems. You have to look at what's happening elsewhere in West Africa. They have felt that their politicians were not able to handle it. I'm not saying it's better now, because they've actually called the Wagner group and the mercenary group as well. But what I'm saying is that don't fall for the lip service the politicians are giving us. The job to do on ground is huge.
Okay, so let me just stay with you a little bit on this one. So are you now saying, let me use my colleague's stance in asking questions. Do you now think that a change of regime, or maybe a change of political ideology, will be the solution to these problems?
You mean in terms of our terrorism problem?
Yes.
No, definitely not. It's not about, we've accepted the regime we have, so we have to go on with it. The point here is this. It is a change of tactics, a change of mindset. There's no need spending billions or trillions and not showing the effect on ground. I've always said in every program I've gone to for years that we have to do the military aspect, okay? It's a bit detailed, we'll go into that later. But we must also do the social and economic aspect. Why insurgency and terrorism is back is because poverty is back. You have to link the two things together. There's no doubt about it that if people, somebody just mentioned it now, that they're giving out money. The only reason why they're giving out money is because ideology does not sell anymore. There's no young person you're going to, all the Okada drivers are in Lagos. You're not going to tell anybody, go and attack anybody and say, because you believe in Allah. The guy will say, are you joking? He will tell you, how much can you give me? Boko Haram has been paying. We are in the 4th generation of Boko Haram fighters. I have to tell you this. Not the first, though, the 4th. Because the first ones have died. Some of them have been maimed and all that. These ones are being paid. They don't believe in anything. They don't carry any Quran or anything. You pay them and they fight. Or you promise their family things and they fight. Even as small as bicycles. So we are in a war that we might not come out from if we think it's only a purely military solution. After all, the Tucanos are here. And we've been bombarding Bornu there is literally no ground in Bornu that can grow any material anymore. Add to that the fact that we have illegal mining going on. And some of the banditry is linked to illegal mining. So we are just adding problems onto problems. And we've not been trying solutions that are diverse. You have to do the military, I agree totally, and nobody will disagree with that. But you must do the social and the economic. Otherwise, it's like pouring water in a basket.
Right.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that one. Doctor, the president is still in Riyadh. He might be coming back anytime soon, where he talked about two-state solution. And he talked about the right of people to, want to secede and the rest. How come, is the president overwhelmed? Is charity now starting from abroad? What's going on?
Well, you see, first, at a situation like this, I don't think the president should be speaking from abroad because the buck stops at his table. And if I'm to lay a solid background to this, which I think Evans won't forgive me if I don't say it, is that we need to look at the dynamics of the evolution of this government. If we look at it in 2015, you remember the word the dogs and the baboon will be soaked in blood. Now, I'll give you two references. Two. The man that called himself chief servant, Babangida Aliyu, the former governor of Niger State. He was on AIT, and he spoke about the kola nut culture. The kola nut culture, according to him, is a Fulani traditional practice. What Yorubas will call aroko. It's the olden days way of sending message, the days of our forefathers, that there's a way they would do that thing. When you take it there, they know what you mean. So he spoke about the kola nut culture, that there's something they do to kola nut, that when you send it to your brother across the border, it means that you are in trouble. They should come and assist you and rescue you. Now, the Buhari, the allies of Buhari, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at that time, they brought some of these guys. And when they brought them in, and the election was won and lost, these guys found Nigeria to be a soft spot. These are guys that have already been facing pressure in Mali and some of all these countries. They now came to Nigeria. They found Nigeria as a safe haven, and that is where the problem of banditry came from. You will realize that during the Jonathan time, what we usually have is Boko Haram. But then when Buhari came, after a while, we had
Africa and the rest.
Yes, banditry and all that. So that is one background that we must not forget. The second reference is Kawu Baraje, the ally of Bukola Saraki. Kawu Baraje, I think he's the former chairman of PDP, but he was with APC during the merger and all that. He's part of the NPDP then. He said it on live TV that they brought bandits. That was when the Saraki camp fell out with the Buhari camp during the Saraki-led Senate presidency. He said it on live TV. Now, don't we know that what a man sow shall he reap? Are we surprised that these things have become so emboldened? Another thing is that looking at the time of Buhari, there was a time Buhari went for a conference or something like that, and he said that people are free to come into Nigeria.
Oh, yes.
So when a president says that, are we surprised that we now have Lakurawa or something? I'll give you another reference. When the governor of Benue State, as he then was, Samuel Otom, complained about the invasion of murderous herdsmen, what did the Buhari presidency say? He said that they should, accommodate their neighbors. Do you remember the Water Resources Bill and what it was meant to achieve? That is another thing. Do you remember Femi Adesina when he said that, is it not good for you to give up your land than to die? Failing to realize that land is to you what cattle is to the herdsmen. If I can go further, during the Buhari regime, have you forgotten that anything that pertains or relates or concerns or is connected or associated with herdsmen, no action will be taken? Do you remember that during the Buhari time, there was a time whereby for over 6 months, if you look at the headlines, Nigeria was just talking about cows. What am I trying to say? All these foundations, all these things are things that it gives leverage. Now, these Lakurawa guys have been operating since 2018. That was during the Buhari regime. So the over-sectional approach of Buhari was what led to this thing. Now, the problem I have with Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that he has been more politically correct than usual. And if truth be told, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is somebody that, if he had gotten power from the PDP, the way he would have behaved, the way he would have gone on, or if he had gotten power from the Labour Party, I'm sure most of these guys would have been in problem. But for the sake of political correctness, he has kept quiet, even when the presidency of Buhari had put he himself in trouble, because some of these things that went on is not mainly in his administration. For instance, we remember during the Buhari time how the Buhari presidency was just borrowing, and when Buhari was to leave, I think about 2 weeks, they still want to go and borrow. And the Senate was laughing at the chambers, when they were reading that. So monumental corruption, sectionalism is what brought us to where we are today. We must not rule out that particular fact. But then, the thing is that even if Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he has the will, does he have the way? Because in that community, you see, terrorism is an ideology. Ideology doesn't die quickly. In fact, it has been asserted by scholars that if there is one person remaining, just one, if you kill everybody, if it's just one, if that person grows up and knows his left from that ideology will resurrect back. So now, the problem is that, can Bola Ahmed Tinubu solve this thing, knowing fully well that these guys have been operating there for 8 years now? Let us be realistic. Let us be real now. In any place where you are operating for 6 years, the truth is that there's no way there wouldn't have been 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emotional attachment. What do I mean by that? These people have lived in this community. There are some children in that Sokoto State now that their father is a bandit, their mother is an indigene of Sokoto State. So there would have been emotional attachment. So how easy is it to get this for the military to get the support of the community when these guys have been left to kind of like themselves. And they have mastered the territory. If you take the military there now, the military that you are taking there does not know that terrain. These guys have been there for 6 years.
Dr. Deji, please hold your line of thought. Hold your line of thought. There's this question I asked our guest yesterday, and I want to ask you the same question. These problems seem to have persisted during the Muhammad Buhari regime because, I mean, all heads of the security architecture were either from the north or were Muslims from the north, or both Muslims and northerners. Now we have a new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is though Muslim but southerner. And all the security chiefs, he's done a kind of rejigging. I mean, the chief of army staff is from the west, is Christian. The chief of naval staff is from the east, he's Christian. The DSS is from the west, he's Christian. Chief of defense staff, chief of defense staff, yes, from the west, Christian. So why is it that these people have not been able to reverse that trend of one, not arresting Mieti Allah, not dealing with the ethnic cleansing that is going on in the Middle Belt, not fighting Boko Haram and saying, look, it's no longer my people killing, you are people killing my people. Why is it difficult for that trend to be reversed 16 months after this person came into office?
Also, your concluding thought when you're giving answer to that question.
Well, the truth is that it is quite difficult because there are even the head of the military, the head of DSS, they may be Christians, but they are not the one that will fight the battle.
No, but they give the orders.
They give the orders. But then there are fifth columnists in the military itself. You see, that is where it brings out the fact about ideology. When the Boko Haram element were ravaging the country, there are some people in the military, there are some people in the government, that subscribe to the ideals of these people, that this is the ideal way of life to them. But for them, it's now like a conflict of interest. You are somebody, you are who is who in the Nigerian state. But then you believe in the ideology of a group and that ideology should be the way of life. At the end of the day, it becomes a conflict of interest. And one problem that Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have is that at the end of the day, I pray they don't turn it around like they turn it around for Jonathan. When Jonathan was going all out against these guys, there was a conspiracy theory that he's even the one behind it to depopulate the north. Imagine, you can imagine such a thinking. So Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself needs to be very, very careful. But the problem that the Buhari presidency created is so enormous. You remember, during the time of Buhari, this is just last year, Mieti Allah were living like kings. In fact, Katuriaras are big boys. Katuriaras can do anything. In fact, as at then, if you like, go and report them at the police station. They'll just be laughing at you. That is how bold these guys are. Kudos to Bola Ahmed Tinubu now that at least that effrontery have reduced. You've not heard much of Mieti Allah and all that. But the truth is that it is something that is very serious. And even if you are to look at it, did you not hear it when Bola Ahmed Tinubu was campaigning and he made a statement, I think, with this Ajia that was invited to arise that said, even Bola Ahmed Tinubu is scared that if you do something, they will kill you.
All right. Prince Chilaka, can you just, a little response to the question I asked and wrap it up with your concluding thoughts?
What's the question?
The question is, Buhari was in government and used the north, security architecture all went to the north. Now, Buhari, we have Tinubu from the west, and it's more like using the westerners. Why is it that we have not seen a reversal in that trend of fighting insecurity?
Well, a country that...
quick one, sir.
A country that enjoys nepotism will never move forward. I feel bitter and I feel upset each time we'll have to talk about government appointments. We're looking at, is it from the east? Is it from the north? Is it from the south? I think at 64, is that not what Nigeria is now? At 64, we should be thinking out of the box. At 64, we should be saying somebody has been appointed based on merit. At 64, we shouldn't be thinking about... I have always advocated that one way to put Nigeria straight is to have state of residence as against state of origin. It gives everybody the same status.
I'm happy you made mention of that, Prince. Now, everybody having the same status of owing 619 naira, 501 naira as debt. You know, these are national debts. No, the same, the same status.
Go pay your money.
Just 1 minute so that we get concluded.
I must find your address so that when China and US come,
what do you make of that? What do you make of that?
Well, those who have been benefiting from Nigeria, those who have been governors, senators, honorable members, former presidents, former governors, they should all come together and pay this money. They should not expect the ordinary poor Nigerians who right now cannot survive, who right now cannot even get good medical attention, to pay the money which they have collected, which they have borrowed and embezzled. That's my position on it.
All right, so what do you want to say, Dr. Daisy?
My response is to Prince Chilaka. Scream, shout. You see that money, you must pay. You must pay.
Mr. Alex, let's get your concluding thought. Also, as you tell us what your stand is on 619 naira, 501, that every Nigerian is owing. 619,501 naira that Nigerians are owing.
If it's split around.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to bet you that if you ask what the UK citizen is owing or what the US citizen is owing, you would run away from the studio when we hear the figures. The point is, what did we do with the money? I think the real question is that the borrowing aspect is not a problem. Like, for example, everybody today, this morning in your panel, will agree that if we have to borrow to come out of insecurity, we should do it. If it is to get mercenaries, to get more arms, to get more people recruited in the police and the army, we should do it, and everybody will agree. So borrowing in itself is not a problem. Countries have borrowed to industrialize their country. The point is that we borrowed to consume and we borrowed to embezzle. And so I would, in that sense, I would go with Prince saying that everybody that has been in government since 1999 at least should come back and give us back the money. But if it is for that sum, it is not as mongoose as you think when you consider other countries that have developed, even with borrowing. The biggest debtor in the world is the USA, and yet they are also the most developed. So the question is, what do we do with the money we borrowed?
All right, so we'll leave that one hanging. We'll let every Nigerian ask that question. What has government done with monies borrowed? Well, let's go into another conversation now. I would like you gentlemen to stay with us. DSS finally grants Nnamdi Kanu access to legal team after 2 months, while Sowore has made some revelations. Well, he did reveal a secret memo opposing allocation of certain political positions and opportunities to Igbos. Let's talk about this when we come back from this break.
Hello there, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. You are still watching VOP this morning. Now, after nearly 2 months without access to his legal team, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, was finally permitted to meet with his lawyers on Monday, following directives from the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Mr. Adeola Ajayi. Barrister Aloy Ejumako, Kanu's lead counsel, confirmed the meeting and noted that his team, unable to see Kanu since September 2024, was joined by US-based attorney, Mr. Ndidi Aworom. This development comes as Simon Ekpa, the self-acclaimed Prime Minister of IPOB, has called on Igbos to participate in a Biafra referendum in Finland, pledging support for those needing visas to attend. Oh well, in a related statement, Former African Action Congress presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore argued that Nigeria's structure hinders Igbo advancement, alleging a secret memo guiding government restrictions on Igbos in key political roles. Sowore insists restructuring is essential for the Igbos to thrive in Nigeria. We still have in the studio here Dr. Deji Omoshola and Prince Francis Chilaka. And virtually, Mr. Alex Okonkwo. Mr. Alex, I'll come straight to
Before we delve into that, let's get a video of Sowore making that statement. You know,
exactly.
The memo he talked about, the secret memo.
Problem. Nigeria has an Igbo problem. There is a secret memo in government that whenever we want to take charge in this country, be careful of the Igbo. Don't give them position. Don't give them opportunity. Otherwise, they will back. For an Igbo man to survive in Nigeria, as it is currently put together, Nigeria must break.
All right, thanks for that clip. That's Omoyele Sowore talking about the exclusion of the Igbos from the commanding heights. More like a conspiracy theory that the federal government is working, state-sponsored conspiracy. Oh, well, we'll get into that in a bit. Mr. Okonkwo, I would like to ask you something about the detention of Nnamdi Kanu. People believe that if Nnamdi Kanu is released, that there will be peace in the Southeast. As a security expert, I want you to help us understand. Do you agree with that assertion, that if Nnamdi Kanu is released, that there will be peace in the Southeast?
Well, let me say, I think everybody that is concerned believes it will be a solution. I am not 100% convinced. Let me tell you why. Nnamdi Kanu is not the type of person that will come and go and sit in one place in Abia and just be relaxing and drinking palm wine. He has, over his best years, represented the call for a kind of emancipation. Let me not use secession immediately, but a kind of emancipation of the Igbo land in itself. So he doesn't have any other thing to do than to come and continue that, except he leaves the country. Because I don't see how, first thing, let us be clear, what we call the IPOB movement has already disintegrated into several groups. What is causing mayhem now in the Southeast is not necessarily just IPOB. A lot of small groups have been created, both bandits, both criminals, whatever. Even people, independentists, people are looking for independence without being under IPOB. So he's not totally in control of everybody. There is a clear symbol that releasing him will calm down a kind of sentiment that the Igbos have that they are being treated unfairly because people like Miati Allah have not been arrested and all that. We said it earlier. But I don't think, and I'm saying it on a personal, I mean, of course, none of us can know what will happen precisely, but I don't think that automatically means peace in the Southeast, because the reasons for having insecurity in the Southeast will not evaporate with the release of Nnamdi Kanu. We would need to know what his release means. Is he going to be released and go back to Abia? Is he going to be released and travel abroad like Sunday Igboho did immediately after? Things like that have to be verified to know what the consequences will be. But there's no cause and effect.
Alex, do you believe that some Igbo leaders, governors, politicians are behind the continual incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu?
I wouldn't say it like that. That would be saying something I don't know. But definitely I agree with Prince earlier that they are faulty in what has happened. They have let the situation disintegrate over the years. It's not today. I'm talking about at least over 10 years. Because by impoverishing the area, by the way, the Igbos have senators in federal government. What are they doing? Has anybody ever asked that question? Do they want to secede from Nigeria as well? Are they not enjoying? Don't we have Igbo businessmen who are making money from Nigeria? Have they ever come out to speak, the major transporters and all that? Are they not Igbos? So it's a holistic affair. That's why I don't believe in one action will have several effects. It's holistic. The leadership of the Igbo community in itself has failed. The private, both administrative and political. Now, that does not exude Nigeria from having, in one way or the other, not done the things necessary to make the Southeast peaceful enough.
All right, one last question before I leave you. Do you agree with Omoyele Sowore that there's a state-sponsored conspiracy against the Igbo nation to exclude them from the commanding heights of Nigeria's national life?
Okay, well, he said that as if he had a proof for it. I don't have a proof, so I cannot agree with him. I don't have any proof. What I'm seeing is what you are seeing. I've seen that under the Buhari regime, there were fewer Southeast people who were in the top echelon, like in the military, for example. I'm seeing that now, too. There are also few Igbo people in this particular government. But from that point, to call it a pure agenda that is organized as if they pass the file on to each other, you will have to have proof to confirm that. I cannot confirm that. But obviously, with what we're seeing on ground, all of us, we can see that there are fewer Igbos at the top level.
Interesting. I was going to ask you that one about those of Igbo origin in the military. Why is it a lack of interest in people joining and rising through the ranks, or are they being systematically taken off?
Okay, no, let's get it clear. You know, to go into the military, I'm talking of just the military, not the police now, you go through the NDA. Strategically, that's most of there are other institutes, but the NDA is the major way. And this is by quota. And the quota is by state. So automatically, the Southeast, having 5 states, will have fewer generals than the North in general that has well over 12 states. So that's already mathematical. And now, I have done some research into that a few years back, and I've realized that several Igbo officers in the past didn't used to go into the infantry division. You have to understand it. And the infantry division is the core division in terms of they're the ones doing the battle. All our army chiefs recently have been like the late Lagbaja and the one who has taken over have all been through that. So almost automatically, the current presidents tend to put somebody who is from the infantry corps. Now, they also tend to put somebody who's from their part of the country for obvious reasons. You and I know the story of this country. Our political situation is still fragile. So there is also that aspect of treason and all that. So it's a bit more complex. That's what I'm trying to say. Let us not just take the words of Sowore completely as he said it. It's a bit more detailed than that.
Okay. All right, then. Let me come to Prince now. Prince, let me give a little personal story as I ask you for your take on this one. Personally, there was a time after I went past my 15 years in broadcasting, I felt, okay, maybe I needed to delve into another aspect of broadcasting without being core broadcasting. And then I went somewhere. I think I should leave out the agency. Yes, I think I should leave out the agency. I went to that organization and met with one of the big guys there. He's from the northern part of Nigeria. And we got talking, talked over a few drinks, and I indicated my interest in wanting to switch to the media aspect of that agency. And the first question he asked me, that I hope you're not an Igbo guy. My name is such that you wouldn't know where I'm from. I bear 2 English names. And he said, I hope you're not an Igbo guy. Because in this organization, we have decided that for the next 10 years, no Igbo person will be employed here. And I said, oh, why? And he said, well, because the previous person employed Igbos, and it's been almost 10 years after that time. So no Igbo person had been employed. Those that were employed are almost retiring. And for the next 10 years, and maybe beyond, no Igbo person will be employed in that organization. And why do you think that the Igbos are having it, do I say unfairly, in Nigeria? They are the ones who are mostly affected when when buildings and markets are demolished and structures are burned. They're mostly affected. They are the ones mostly affected when when government policies affect importation of goods and services.
Sorry, Prince, before you respond, Moses, I want to put you on the spot. So were you employed or not?
You have brought back a sad memory.
COVID happened. Before that.
I don't like talking about it. I remember when I was still young, when I finished secondary school as well, I wanted to go into the army. And I was asked to go and get a reference. My late dad, he has a brother, an uncle who was high ranking in the army then. I went to the man and I was shocked at what he told me. He said, my reference can't take you anywhere. Go and look for an army officer from the north. That's several years back. He hit me like thunderbolt. And because of that, I ended up making a lot of northern military friends. So when Sowore, when I listened to that, it resonated. There are certain places today in this country called Nigeria you will go to, you will not get the favor you deserve, or you will not even get what you deserve professionally because you're an Igbo man. In this same Lagos, I walked into some offices where I was asked to go and see somebody. And I sat down for almost 2 hours. But people were coming and entering. Somebody called me out. He said, "Show me Igbo there." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Shall go Yoruba? What boy there? Go and speak Yoruba to that man."
Why so? What is it with the Igbo?
See,
is it that people are scared of them, or is there something?
The thing is, yes. I think other tribes feel intimidated by the Igbo man.
Why?
And I also believe that the other tribes have not forgotten, or they've not been able to remove the civil war from their mentality.
But Igbos are
so
the
this
ones that
no victor, no vanquish is a hoax.
Who suffered more during the civil war, according to history? We know that in the Southeast.
It doesn't matter. Nobody's looking at who suffered more. I have a lot of Northerners as friends. And they believe that if you give an Igbo man chance today, he will go the same way with Nnamdi Kanu. But I keep telling them, I said, look at the Southeast. Where is the presence of the federal government in the Southeast? I take my state, for example, Imo State. We built the airport ourselves. We, the people, championed by the late Sam Mbakwe, and that is one of the best governors the Southeast has ever had. Not all these people you have parading themselves as governors. So I believe that even when people say that, the Igbos themselves are not helping themselves. They're not doing enough. They are not. That's the truth. The Igbo man is arrogant. The Igbo man is proud. We know that. The Igbo man feels he's on top of the world. We know that. But the question you should ask, when you go to Rome, what do? You behave like the Romans.
Even when it means progressing in error?
You behave like the Romans. Over time, we kept saying, the Hausa man knows nothing. The Hausa man knows nothing. But the Hausa man has ruled this country for how many years? We're not thinking, the Igbos are not thinking out of the box. Okay. So when Sowore said that, he's saying the truth.
All right, let me come to Doctor now. Doctor, is this sign that, because when you talk about the Hausa man and the Igbo man, sorry to do this comparison, I hate to do it, but then you see that an ordinary northerner is politically enlightened. An ordinary northerner goes about in his little kiosk somewhere, or as he pushes the water truck and everything, he's listening to radio. And the radio is educating them on the political activities. So they are politically, savvy. An ordinary Easterner cares more about his business, cares more about, how he can enrich himself and go back home and build something. Who should we blame for the engagement of the Easterners in politics and engagement of those from the northern extraction in politics?
Well, good question. First, the Northerners, I don't think they are super politically inclined than the Igbos, really. It's just that the Northerners, I don't know, maybe I can use this word in this case, are very obedient in the sense that, if they tell them, go this way, they will just go that way. Once the man they are doing Rankadede for, or the Ehemia, or the Imam that is preaching to them every time, if they tell them, go this way, they will go. But then, if you tell an Igbo man, go this way, he may still look at you and be like, why do you say I should go that way? Are you sure?
Ego, pride?
No, it's not pride. It is it has been enlightened, if I can use that word, because if you say go this way, and that man is thinking, that means that man has grown to the level of him being able to rationalize and take a decision based on rational thinking. But what I see, I don't think that other tribes are afraid of the Igbos. If I can depart away from what the prince said, I think it is about greed in the true sense of it. And there are three tripods. Nigeria has over 200 ethnic groups, but there are three major ones. The Hausa, but now we have Hausa Fulani, because while I was in primary school, they say Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, but now we have Hausa Fulani, Igbo, and Yoruba. So based on those tripods, there have been this unholy alliance between the Hausa Fulani and the Yoruba. So because it is odd number, not even number, if Nigeria have 4 major ethnic groups, maybe the Igbo would have aligned with the 4th one. You understand? They would have aligned. But now, because there has been this unholy alliance, and I believe that it is more of greed, in the sense that we can't say that the Igbos don't deserve to occupy good positions in this country. And I'll give you 2 references. Number 1, when Abiola was denied his presidency, the other ethnic stock, they sat down and said, we must compensate the Yoruba people. They brought out Obasanjo and they brought out Olufalaye, that anyhow you vote, a Yoruba man will be president. When the Niger Delta was very aggrieved with the environmental degradation in their community, as Obasanjo was leaving, he brought Yaradua and he brought a Goodluck Jonathan to compensate them, right? Now, you don't want to ask yourself that if we see it necessary to use top political position as a compensation, then you want to ask yourself, what happens to the Igbos? The Igbos went into war because they feel marginalized. So if you compensate the Yoruba during the Abiola issue, if you compensate the Niger Delta and life happened to Yaradua and Goodluck Jonathan was allowed to become president, then what happens to the Igbo? So where the greed comes in is that you would naturally think that, okay, when Buhari was to become president and Tinubu was to nominate the vice, what stops Tinubu to be more national than sectional, which is to say, okay, there's one Igbo man that I can use? It's not all Igbos that are power-centric. There are some soft Igbos. That's the truth. There are some soft Yorubas, there are some soft Hausa Fulanis. Okay, you think that Rocha Sokorocha will be too wise, right? Give it to Odius Okalu. Odius Okalu, you don't too trust him, I mean? Give it to Opus Odima. Opus Odima is not a good guy. What about Emeka Ihedioha? So there are so many Igbos that could fit him, but I think that unholy alliance between the Yorubas and the Hausa Fulanis is what is the problem. And sincerely, to agree with Sowore, it would be difficult for the Igbos to become president in this country. And it's a sad one. I'm not in support of that, because if you are rejoicing that Obama became the president of US, Obama that is from Kenya became the president in America, you are happy. But you don't want an Igbo man that you are seeing every day to become the president of the country. That's insanity. But the truth is that, except if the Igbos becomes president through accident, it would happen one day. When it will happen is what I don't know. But the truth is that one day it would.
What do you mean
happen.
by saying accident?
Yes, good. If the ticket of Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi are sailed through, and if life happens to Atiku Abubakar, automatically Peter Obi will become the president. There's nothing anybody could have done about it. And it will happen one day. It will not happen by agreement, but it may happen by accident. It may be the next 8 years, 10 years, 50 years, 60 years, but it will surely happen. But where I have a problem is that what you cannot take, don't dish it out. That is one major problem I have, because when it happens, Will you be able to withstand that Igbo man appointing chief of army staff, chief of air staff, chief of this, chief of that, from a ethnic group? You are doing it. It is sweet you. When he is now doing it, will you be able to cope with it? And see, being together in a country is like a marriage. There are terms and conditions for marriage. There are some, I'm coming, sir. There are some things that you are fulfilling for your wife to still remain with you. So you cannot want people to be part of a country and they are one of the major ethnic groups, but you deny them that highest position in the country. No. Why would they ask for secession?
Stay with your line of thought. Is it a matter of greed or is it a matter of political convenience? I ask this in the light of the fact that in 1979 there was an NPN-NPP accord. It was an accord between more like the North and the Southeast that produced Umezoke as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Wasn't it a matter of convenience? Is it about greed or political convenience?
No, I will go more on the part of greed than political convenience, in the sense that if you are talking about speakership, that's like number 4. I'm basing my analysis on number 1, because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is more like a one-man country. A country whereby if the president says, go and do this, that person will not have effrontery to tell the president, sir, this is so, he will just go and do it. Like if you are driving on the road and the leader of the police patrol team gives any order, at that point in time, the order of that senior officer is the law to that junior officer. That's the law. He doesn't know any other law. So I see it more from the part of greed. Even if you don't want the Igbos to be president for now, at least you can give them a bit of convenient position, a bit of comfortable position that will make them to feel part of it. See, when you are in a place, the first thing is that for you to be part, that's in that feeling must be there. And if Nnamdi Kanu is saying secession, if Ojukwu tried to secede and do what Ojukwu was saying, what Nnamdi Kanu is saying, this younger generation, they are seeing it. They are seeing it every day. It's still happening. It's just a matter of time. It's just a time bomb. And sincerely, sir, sorry, I must say this. If we look at Nigeria and the two sides of it, the Igbos are not really the problem of Nigeria. Igbo man just want to make money and flex.
Okay. There's one question I want to ask you.
So you speak balance, they just want to bully you, you just want to feel happy.
There's one question I want to ask you before we come over to the prince. Yeah. Do you think that a presidential candidate from the Southwest with a running mate from the Southeast will win an election in this country at the presidential level?
No, they won't. They won't. So the reason why they won't is that, you see, there's something about power. Let me give you a live example.
No, because you said that Bola Tinubu should have taken an
instead of nominating Oshibajo during Buhari time. That's what I was saying. I could have nominated them. Let me give you one real life example. While I was studying for my PhD abroad, something happened. There's a Nigerian community in my school. In that Nigerian community, an Hausa Fulani was the president. So after that, it is agreed that it will naturally come to the South, maybe Yoruba or the Igbos. That's how they do it. But then these guys pleaded that, let us this person is competent, is this, is that let this person, which is another person entirely, but also an Hausa Fulani, let him contest. After so much dialogue, the Nigerian students in the school agreed that, okay, let's just leave them. When that person finished his tenure, they are still trying to bring in another Hausa Fulani, and that was what brought problem. It got to the school authority. They invited the Nigerians in the school. Should I tell you the truth? They had to disband Nigerian community in my university then while I was doing PhD because of why? Greed. Greed is something that must not be overlooked. And when you are in a multi-ethnic, multinational something, for instance, if all of us now are Nigerian, the only way everybody can feel among, the only way there can be peace, if you are him and me do not come to the table with greed. That what do you have? What is your potential? What is your capacity? You take it. I take mine, and everybody is happy. But so long as you want to take everything, there will be problem.
Okay.
So we have seen a situation whereby I'm a Yoruba man, but truth has to be said, the Yorubas and the Hausa Fulani want to take everything. Now, before Tinubu leaves, the Hausa Fulani would have been yearning for power. But Tinubu has not spent 2 years. They are already crying. They are already yearning for power. If an Hausa Fulani man gets there, before he leaves, the Yorubas are already stretching their hands, say, you know, as if it's their, you know, it is a personal property. So I see it more from the aspect of greed that needs to be curbed. And if I can put a second one, it should be unholy alliance.
Okay.
Greed and unholy alliance.
Mr. Alex, the president in Riyadh made a statement. He said something about how Nigeria has always championed the cause of peace and cooperation among nations. And he also talked about how our experiences, domestically and regionally, have taught us that identity politics are no substitute for respecting the nuisance of diversity. In Nigeria, a whole lot of people have been championing or talking about, there have been agitations, let me put it that way, in Nigeria about secession group. We have the man who also talked about the memo, also in Nigeria, talk about how he wants to have another nation. We have the Sunday Boho. We even have Onitiri, most recently, talk about how he won a Yoruba nation. We have Nnamdi Kanu still in detention up until today, to the point that, you know, having access to the legal team was more like what you need to fight for. What do you really make of this and the statement by the president?
Okay, the president is in his role to say something like that. I would be surprised if he said something different. So there's not much to say on that. The president is just saying what should be said as a president. What these other things you mentioned signify to me and many other people is that there's a lot of call for regionalism. Not everybody really wants to secede. What people want is to be autonomous enough to decide certain things. Of course, the military will always be federal, also to say, and certain things like diplomacy and all that. But people want to be able to decide on how fast they do their development. One of the reasons that makes Lagos very, very interesting is that Lagos has always had more or less, even though that's the dark side, but it has always had more or less the same blueprint. Everybody wants to have that in their region. The 5 states in the Southeast want to have that kind of plan if the 5 governors can work together. Same thing for the South-South. They feel that they can develop faster. So I think, let us not misunderstand these calls as for calls of a new nation. No, what does it mean to have a Yoruba nation? There are Yorubas in Togo, in Benin Republic, in Brazil. Are they all going to come back? No. There are Yorubas all across the South, the West Africa. Anybody that knows. The same thing with Fulanis. Fulanis are everywhere. So where is the Fulani nation? Which nation is it going to be? Most of these things should not be misunderstood as secession. It is more autonomy. I want to come back to something your guest said. We keep forgetting that just 10 years after the Civil War, the first vice president of Nigeria was an Igbo man. That means there was the intentionality for bringing people together just immediately after the Civil War. And this guy was Alex Ekwueme was the vice president to a Hausa man. So there cannot be anything that signifies unity more than that, even though it was symbolic. Since then, we've gone down the drain. So there is quite, I think we are not touching, it's like we want to give Panadol to solve the pain, but not the symptoms of the pain, rather, but not solve what is causing the pain.
Okay.
I think it's a bigger discussion to have.
We're running out of time, but we'd like for you to just give us your concluding thoughts. And if you can do it in less than a minute, 30 seconds precisely.
On what topic exactly?
You can merge both. You can merge both.
Oh, okay. Clearly, a few things come out in my mind. Information, education, unity, and let's get to work. Because a lot of it is not just about budgeting money. We need to get to work. We need boots on ground. And when I mean boots on ground, it's not just military. We need people to talk to traditional rulers. We need clerics to change their discourse, because the young people of this generation are not listening. What they are doing is they are copying what you do. You can take your child, for example. He doesn't listen to you.
Okay.
He does exactly what you do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alex Okonkwo, for that wonderful analysis. Now, Prince Chilaka, a quick one in less than 1 minute. Let's get a concluding thought as you also tell us what you think about Simon Ekpa calling for a referendum in December in Finland. He also made mention of how people who want to come there can come over. We provide visa for them.
Simon Ekpa, I think you can't stay abroad and be dishing out instruction to people in Nigeria. Come back to Nigeria. and face the reality. You go to, he's from Ebonyi State. You go to Ebonyi State on a Monday, there is no sit at home. So why is there sit at home in other states in the Southeast? And then bringing it back to hold this thing about whether the Igbo man can lead Nigeria or not. I put it on the doorstep of the Igbo leaders, the governors, the honorable members, anybody in the Southeast that is a leader should be able to speak out. But unfortunately, Dr. Deji talks about greed. I talk about selfishness. The Igbo elders, the Igbo leaders are selfish, and it is in that selfishness that they are helping to push their people down.
All right, Dr. Deji, let's get your concluding thoughts in less than 1 minute.
Well, to just touch on the DSS detention of Nnamdi Kanu, where I think that if bandits could be pardoned, if terrorists could be rehabilitated and Sunday Igboho is released, I think Nnamdi Kanu can also be released. If not, this case will drag on and on like forever. The solution to this Nnamdi Kanu issue is a political solution. And at the end of the day, if you say the matter should go on in court, if he's discharged and acquitted, all the years that he have wasted for the legal battle, will you pay him any compensation? So I think the Igbo leaders should be pushing for that. And the DSS denying Kanu access to his legal team. I think, those are some of the silly things that happen.
All right, then. Unfortunately, we're absolutely out of time. But thank you very much, Dr. DJ Moshala, Doctor of Political Science. Thank you, Prince Francis Chilaka, Public Affairs Commentator, and Mr. Alex Okonkwo, a security expert. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, that's it on the show today. Stick around, 9 o'clock, newspaper review. On behalf of the backroom staff and my colleagues here, Chukuma Okoro, Fina Okechukwu, and Moses Humphrey, wishing you a beautiful day. Bye for now.